All right, today we have questions on chivalry, knighthood, Saint Galgano and his sword, and how should Roman Catholics connect with and preserve their identity? Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with an imperious Charles Coulombe.
Imperious? Imperious? You mean like I throw my weight around?
Yeah, like the Roman Empire.
Uh,
Like all empires. You just go around and you colonize.
you know what?
And you exploit people and you exploit resources. And we're sick of it, Charles.
Uh, really? Really? Is that what I'm getting? Is that the guff? Is that the nonsense churned out by mental midgets in third grade colleges across the country from Harvard to LACC? Is that basically what I'm getting?
Yes.
Chimpanzee taught history. No, I'm not saying it's wrong. I have nothing against chimpanzees teaching history. Why shouldn't they? What I am saying is that, uh, you know, how do I put this in a nice way? If empire was so bad, why is it we live in one? I can't answer that one, can you? No, I didn't think so.
Well, we're victims of circumstance.
Victims of circumstance, my eye. If it weren't for our empire, we would be unable to force either abortion or gay marriage on the third world. And where would we be then? I don't have an answer to that one, do you, smart guy? I didn't think so. Get with the program.
Okay. Well, I'm actually surprised you didn't come. I'm surprised you didn't. Your retort wasn't "That's rich" coming from the head of the Tumblr House Tower.
Low-lying fruit. Low-lying fruit. Look, if you think I'm going to challenge the plutocrat who pays me in front of a live audience, you're crazy. I would never do that. Listen, I'm not going to bite the hand that feeds me. I might as well attack the Internal Revenue Service. But speaking of biting the hand that feeds one, this just in from Taylor's, South Carolina. Are you ready?
Ready.
Can you dig it?
Yes.
All right. They just handed out, I don't want to say passed out. I mean, I might pass out, but they didn't. The Nostra Aetate Forum will be meeting at the parish house. An extraordinary parish for ordinary people. I like that. It's nice. Nostra Aetate Forum, Sunday, 26 October, 3 to 5 p.m. at the parish house. So that's the Sunday of Christ the King in the, that's kind of ironic, isn't it? That's the Sunday of Christ the King in the extraordinary form. And this is a Nostra Aetate Forum exploring Catholic-Muslim friendship. The inaugural Nostra Aetate Forum will focus on dialogue with our Muslim neighbors, inspired by the words of the Second Vatican Council. Quote, the Church regards with esteem also the Muslims, who adore the one God living and subsisting in himself, Nostra Aetate 3. Join us as we learn about the Islamic faith and discover the common call to peace, prayer, and fraternity that unites us. Well, can't argue with that, or can you? I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems kind of wild. I don't know. I don't know at all. I kind of guess, frankly, that the pastor there is, I don't know, maybe exploring career issues.
Yeah, that's weird.
Well, it would certainly get the attention. Well, stop and think about this for a second. And mind you, I don't know the man from Adam, although I was actually there at the beginning of the summer for a wedding, which was quite nice, very well done. I don't know the man from Adam, so I don't want to impute false impulses to him. But what I can say is that in today's climate, where traditionalists are really being smacked around by bishops, especially in the South. You know who I'm talking about, Charlotte, Knoxville, Chattanooga. I could see where a priest who had been tainted by the extraordinary form, career-wise, might want to, shall we say, lighten the load a little bit with something like this. Now, I'm not saying that's true. It could very well be that he's deeply devoted to interfaith dialogue. I don't know. I don't know the man. It could be.
Charles, I'm going to be frank.
Okay.
I'm sensing sort of undercurrent here. Sort of
Undercurrent?
Undercurrent. That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Undercurrent?
Yeah.
You mean like I'm trapped under the water?
No, I just feel like there's sort of this
Riptide?
I feel like you're not wholeheartedly embracing diversity.
That's not true. And in fact, if I had a daughter, I would name her Diversity. So that every time I hugged her, I'd be embracing diversity. That's right. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
You actually have this thought out. Like, this is like...
Yeah. Of course. If I had a daughter, I would name the child Diversity.
Wow. Okay.
Diversity Coulombe. Doesn't that sound like a nice name?
Diversity Coulombe?
Yeah.
sounds pretty strange, Charles. Not gonna lie.
I urged all of my nieces and nephews to call any daughters they might have Diversity. But, like so many young people today, they're rigid and insist on Christian names instead of going with the flow and, accepting whatever garbage their masters give them. They haven't learned, as people my age have, to, swim in the sewer and rub it all over ourselves so it doesn't smell quite so badly. We've learned. They haven't.
Okay.
You seem somewhat unimpressed.
I'm just moving forward, Charles. I'm just moving
Oh,
forward
well,
with life.
We all have to move forward. Moving onward, from this point forward, getting past all this. This is what we have to do. You see, we got to get past this. We got to move forward. And I think the best way we can do this is by basically making our brains utterly blank.
What did you say?
I say the best way we can do this is basically by making our brains utterly blank.
Blank. Okay. Well, that's actually pretty easy to do. Well, okay.
It'd be very easy for me. I can tell you that. No. But there have been other things though, apart from the excitement in Taylor's. Today they had no kings demonstrations around the country. Which was supposed to be an attack on the Trumpster. And I have to admit, I could not help myself. I had to respond. I did. Maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I shouldn't have responded. Maybe I should have kept my feelings to myself. But I'm afraid I responded. And what I said was, and I quote myself, because no one else will, as regards the No Kings demonstrations, had the Anglosphere not taken several wrong turns in 1534, 1642, 1688, and 1776, we would have no Trumps, nor Bidens, Obamas, nor Steimers, nor Starmers, neither. If you think that those were right turns, then rejoice in what we have and don't complain. It can only continue to improve, as it has been doing. See? Goodness triumphs. Or to put it another way, and to use a rhyme from the 1640s, the Viscount Falkland, after whom several islands in the Atlantic were named, reason never prospers. Wouldst thou know the reason? For if it prosper, none dare call it treason.
Definitely. I've heard that one before.
Well, it's very true. And my whole life I've lived watching it and enjoying every moment of it.
Hmm.
And thus we've come to live in the best of all possible worlds as we ever shall. Remember, the voice of the people is the choice of the people. And the choice of the people is the voice of the people.
Hmm. Don't you think it's kind of strange that this movement is like what is it? It's no kings or no more kings.
It's no kings. No
No
more
kings.
kings was doubtless. See, no more kings was the Schoolhouse Rock,
Schoolhouse Rock. That's what's in my brain because it's so
but
catchy.
it is. But see, that was back in the 70s when people had larger vocabularies. So now we just say no kings because the additional more would make it, kind of difficult. So
Hmm.
from 3 words we go down to 2.
Yeah.
Time will come when they can just say no and leave it at that. And then I think thought crimes will be almost impossible.
It's so weird to me that they went that route rather than kind of, I guess, in terms of the jargon, rather than the fascist route. Like
No, because the fascist route, see, they wanted something that would appeal to the American psyche. Anti-monarchism, we all absorbed with childhood, our mother's milk. If you're an American, unless you make a very conscious effort otherwise, you're supposed to hate monarchy. It's really that simple. So they basically, I mean, if they call him a fascist, call him a dictator, half the country would laugh at them. Call him a would-be king, and you're touching something deep in what passes for the American popular mind. A mind shaped as it's been by its history, or not by its history so much as by a mythologized version of its history.
I guess why I'm surprised is because I feel there's more positivity surrounding kings in terms of like a king and a queen, metaphorically like husband and wife, and the king in his castle, and there's just Disney always deals with kings, queens, princesses.
All true, but you only say that because you're younger. If you're my age, and of course the people who do all the planning and plotting for anything today are my age, you're kind of trapped in wherever it is you were as a young person. So I can assure you that whether you're as old as George Soros or as young as me, and you're putting together this kind of campaign, kings are much more effective to you than dictators or fascists. And mind you, I wish the Trumpster had a tenth of the dedication or the decorum of a king. But see, people don't know what kings are, so it doesn't matter anyway. Um, it always kind of makes me laugh that probably the most quote unquote regal presidents we've ever had in recent years, anyway, I mean, the past 100, have been FDR, JFK, and Reagan.
Hmm. Yeah.
But it's just one more step in the further polarization of the country.
Yeah.
And you know how it is. If you don't think he's the devil incarnate on the one hand, or the second coming on the other, you're bad.
Yeah.
And I think the idea that he's a symptom rather than a cause is kind of anathema. But that's how it seems to me.
Hmm.
I see here just more of the auto demolition that I've seen my whole life. But on a happier note, and I have a happier note, I'm thinking of the 250th anniversary of our country. I was back in New England and New York this past week. I had high-level meetings with some of your relatives. They say hi.
Ooh. Hi.
Uh, They say, if you need the word was muscle, but I don't think they needed it. They meant it the way it sounded.
Uh-huh.
But what they said was, if you think you need some muscle, it's available.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
But I don't think they meant it the way it sounded. I think it was sort of metaphorical or something or other.
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit more oomph to get things moving.
Yeah, no. In case you're finding things in Arcadia moving a little slow right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, I mean, I'm sure what they're meaning like is managing traffic and stuff like that. There's a lot of heavy duty items that come up from time to time.
I'm sure
So
that's what they meant.
yeah.
I'm absolutely sure,
Mm.
positively sure. In fact, I'm sure it meant whatever you wanted to have meant.
You're talking the way people talk regarding Chief Clancy.
I would never. Of course, why not? Chief Clancy is a wonderful public servant. He's devoted his life to law enforcement. Uh, uh, Chief Clancy bleeds blue, and he's a devoted public servant, and he Chief Clancy is Chief Clancy. Chief Clancy is one of the most enlightened law enforcement officials ever to grace law enforcement in the state of California. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Well, were you looking at something over there? It was
No,
kind
no,
of
no, no.
unusual.
That was all spontaneous,
Oh, okay. Good.
right? Yeah, it was spontaneous, and I read every word. I did, really, I did.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Um, Wow, that was an
Beyond that,
interesting inner monologue. Okay.
no,
Um,
yes, it was entirely interior. Yeah, you bet. And the last statement was made uh, out of a. The last statement was made out of complete conviction, and after much personal thought, and represents my considered has only one O there, not considered opinion.
all right. Very good,
Anyway,
Charles. Very good.
but on a totally different note, a couple of really neat things did happen. Uh, I went to the dear old Wayside Inn, made famous by Longfellow, and in New York, in my native Westchester County. Well, not really native. I was born in Manhattan, but we lived in Westchester. Um, the How do I put it? We thought that we would hit Washington Irving's home at the very end. I didn't think I'd be able to take the tour again. I thought it was going to be purely a raid on the gift shop, since the place was supposed to close at 3:45. We get there are big signs saying all tours sold out, which didn't matter because we didn't expect to take the tour anyway. We get in. We were in time for the last tour, which had just developed 2 vacancies. So we took the tour of Irving's house, the Sunnyside, and I always get a shot in the arm. I love Washington Irving,
Yeah.
and he opposed what's his name, Nathaniel Webster, on this
On.
on the spelling issue. On the spelling issue,
Oh. Oh. Okay. Yeah. What we were talking about before. Yeah.
yeah, he opposed Webster's not Nathaniel Noah Webster. He opposed Noah Webster's change to the spelling. He said it was hubristic, and I think I could be wrong, but I think one of the words he used for it was precious, which obviously he didn't mean in a nice way. Remember, it was Irving that invented the phrase "the almighty dollar."
Oh, okay.
So he had quite a sharp tongue when he wanted to. Anyway, from there though, we did something else, which was we went by the old home in Nyack of the man who taught me to write, Carl Van Horn, for which I am really, really gleeful and grateful. I had not been there before, and seeing the place where the man who taught me my craft was born was quite a treat.
Yeah.
And we had dinner that night at the fabulous 76 House in Tappan, New York. One of the great mysteries is why the town is called Tappan, but it's right by the Tappan Sea. It's like in Louisiana, the city of New Orleans is in Orleans Parish. And when you point that out to natives, they can't explain why. It's the same on the Hudson. Oh, so that's Tappan. Oh, no, it's Tappan. I see. So I'm going to cross the Tappan Zee Bridge. No, that's the Tappan Zee. I see. So I'm going to go down to New Orleans. No, we say New Orleans. I see. So it's Orleans Parish. No, it's Orleans Parish. These are the kinds of mysteries that keep me up at night. But the old 76 House is where Major Andre was imprisoned before his judicial murder by General Washington and the gang.
Alrighty, so we're doing another live stream. This is a pretty cool live stream. I kind of really like it.
Who we got?
So we're gonna try to do this. Usually it's on Saturdays or Sundays to answer the one person's question. It's typically Saturday, but this was kind of an extraordinary week, so we ended up doing it today. Pico says, you remember Christophe Buffon de Chazal, the author of critically acclaimed book, The End of Democracy? Is the continuation part out? No, it's not. I'm actually trying to help Christophe sort of get a translator and publisher. It's been a difficult process. He has it written, but I actually am not sure what the original. Does he write it in French, Charles?
Yes.
Yeah. So it needs an effective translation. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's ever going to be published, but we're trying to find a publisher for it. If anyone's interested, let me know. Contact me on Tumble House website.
I'm just curious, where you see this? I ain't seeing nothing.
So it's in chat. You have to go into the live stream of the show.
I don't know where that is, huh?
Well, why don't you look at it on your cell phone so you don't hurt the bandwidth on your PC?
Okay, I can do that. I want to say PC if I can.
Right. Okay. Let's see here. Hello to Brian, of course, and Andrew from New Jersey. And obviously Philip. All the usual suspects in chat. And hi to Waylon, who gave us a $2 donation. He says, "What are your thoughts on Baldwin IV of Jerusalem?"
The Leper King.
The Leper King. He's quite famous because he's in that movie Kingdom of Heaven, and I think a lot of people are really interested in that portrayal.
Well, they are, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. It's certainly a how do I put it? Kingdom of Heaven is a bit twisted, I have to admit. But there we go. Questions about chivalry live stream. That's us. Okay, I got the questions now. That's good. Oh, my lads.
You're gonna have to mute that, Charles.
I just did.
Okay.
I there's a discussion of there's, there's a discussion of bathtub carp in Exorcist 3.
What are you? Oh, I missed that. I totally missed it.
Oh, golly, thank God for whatever it is. No, we've got that comes later, but no, the continuation report isn't out. Baldwin the Fourth is definitely, in my humble opinion, a great king, a brave king. I mean, what a living crucifixion.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually going to do a plug for a different channel that I've been binging on. History March. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. History March is an unbelievable channel where it sort of talks about the great historic battles. Um, like even like what one that I was binging on was actually Hannibal's battles against Rome. I was like, and the way they do it is they kind of show it like it's on a game board, and they're showing all the pieces, and the battle sort of plays out on that game board, and it's
Yeah.
really unbelievable. And one of the battles that they do was it showed actually Baldwin's cunning versus Saladin, and it shows the dynamics of that of. I was watching one of their battles, and it looked. I was amazed at how skilled Baldwin was in terms of using geography and the lay of the land, and it's
Oh,
really
yeah.
amazing because he was young, right? Like, he was in his teens, I thought.
Yeah, he was young, but he was trained. You see, he was trained from
Yeah.
birth. Yeah, and again, I mean, I hate, especially in the face of no kings, which tells us kings are evil. But it's important to bear in mind that these people are trained for the job from birth. You know, they don't come to it after being lawyers or party hacks or both. Not that there's anything wrong with being a party hack. I'm all for party hacks. Without them, we'd have no democracy. But no, yeah, that's.
Well, that was my impression, Charles. Is like that was what I thought. I thought, wow, modern day people would not even be able to negotiate some of these the parts of this battle here, and some of the strategy.
No, well, I mean, they don't have to. They just send drones or whatever in to blow everything to pieces.
Yeah.
You don't need strategy, unless, of course, you don't have overwhelming force, in which case you have to have tactics and strategy.
Yeah.
Luckily, we don't have to have either. But, oh, gee. Now, mind you, here's a fellow who thought that Martin Luther King and Rodney King were being protested. So that's interesting. Why are the boomers the way they are? Well, you know, perfection is a hard thing to maintain, but we've done a good job. We have the music, we have the looks, we had the passions, and above all, the moon was in the seventh house, Jupiter aligned with Mars. What? Peace reigned throughout the planets, and love steered the stars. And we never recovered from that. And now there are a lot of Debbie Downers. Basically, everybody who's 20 years younger than we are.
I mean, I thought there were straight up prophecies about the generation where it's like was it Pope Leo where he heard the conversation with between God and the devil?
Yes, he said that the devil would have 100 years to try to smack the church around, but that came to an end 30 years ago.
But I thought there was something supplementary. I thought Emmerich in part of this sort of situation. I thought it was like the 1960s. God granted special permissions, and they just like unleashed all of hell onto the world. And which resulted in all of these crazy things. I don't know if
Okay.
it was the 60s. I thought something like that. But
Okay. Firstly, I'm feeling threatened. I'm feeling what is it? Microaggressed, triggered.
oh,
I don't feel safe. I don't feel counseled. I feel threatened. And I think that I'm being held up to ridicule as a boomer in front of a primarily youthful audience.
I'm just being authentic.
Oh, well, I can't argue with that. I mean, as long as you're letting the now happen, who am I to say you're wrong? As our brilliant, I don't remember who he was, but as our brilliant viewer said, love is always right, and the stalking laws.
That's right.
But no, anyway, Xenex in Croatia says, besides the recommendations he's previously given on the show, like the death of Arthur, what else would Charles recommend for chivalric literature? Excited to see him in Croatia soon. Actually, I'm going there tomorrow. Well, I'll tell you, just off the top of one's head, Wolfram von Eschenbach's Parsifal, which in turn is the an ending of Chrétien de Troyes' work on the Holy Grail. The so-called Vulgate Lancelot, which is out in Penguin Books. And of course, there's also Bulfinch's Age of Chivalry, which gives very popularized versions of Arthur and Charlemagne and some other chivalric stories. And then Lhasa 7, there's literally a discussion of bathtub carp in The Exorcist 3. And further down, he says, George C. Scott threatens to murder a bathtub carp in The Exorcist 3. You can't make this stuff up. As a Slovak, you should feel somewhat threatened by that.
It's a celebration of our culture, you know. It's pervasive. What? What do you
No,
want?
no, everybody has bathtub carp, of course. Then thoughts on the latest statements made by the Duc d'Anjou. The Duc d'Anjou, de jure Louis the 20th, has made some very strident attacks on the Republic and on its mishandling of both politics and French culture and heritage. He's right. You know, all I can tell you is that the Duc d'Anjou knows what he's talking about. Is going to Quebec like visiting France and America. Well, it's closer than visiting New Orleans Square at Disneyland. Let me see, lovely flags. Oh, Binks Webel from Nova Scotia. God bless you, Binks. Thank you. Glad you like the flag. He's Canadian. He loves the red ensign. I'm not going to answer everybody here, but we had almost 200 at our TLM today, out in the middle of nowhere. The more the boomers clamp down, the more people will come to the TLM. Well, very good. Oh, the bathtub carp is the new Ouija board. Principalities and powers. Don't say you've not been amply warned. All right, I can't argue with that.
Okay, now I'm feeling microaggressed.
We need gatekeeping. You know, we need gatekeeping in this thing. That's the problem with live chat. People get to say what they feel.
All right.
And you know, how would it be? People get used to doing live chat and expressing themselves honestly with us, right?
Right.
Then they get used to it, right?
Right.
And then they expect it to be the same way, the same way in real life. You know, and believe me, you don't want to be pulling no freedom of speech garbage on your masters. They don't hold with that.
That's true.
See, so we're basically we're setting them up for a fall.
That's actually true. I mean, well, there's a lot of things in society that sets people up for a fall, to be honest.
Well, that's true. Now, Waylon Bosefa says he prefers bathtub gin to bathtub carp.
Don't we all?
Well, even Slovaks, I think. gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. Oh, that sounds good. All right. Let's tear ourselves away from our live people and go back to the ones who sent in the questions.
Very good.
What else we got?
We got a bunch of questions from Vonday Raider, some excellent questions. Was able to string together actually a coherent episode because of it, focused on primarily chivalry. So we have about half a dozen questions on chivalry here. Vonday says, "Dear Charles, pray tell us the story of Saint Galgano and his sword in the stone."
Well, sure. Said I'm Johnny. Just said this. Does Charles think Prince William will be a good king? He has no idea. And BP Cox says, I'm the same online as I am in real life, except that I'm 50 pounds heavier in real life. I'm with him. Anyway, yes, St. Galganos was a knight in the late 1100s, a young man who was, as they say, led a riotous life. He was riding along, singing a song, thinking of El Dorado, when he had a sudden vision, and an angel took him up to a great hill and gave him a vision of heaven and said it would be his if he gave up his terrible lifestyle. And he said, well, I'd love to, but it would be harder for me to do that than to stick my sword in this stone. And the angel said, go ahead and try it. And he took his sword and it went right in, as though it were made of butter. And it stuck that way. It's there to this day and can be seen by the pilgrim. Meanwhile, he gave himself up to a life of prayer and holiness and became Saint Galgano, rather than just Sir Galgano.
Where is that? Where's the sword in the stone from Saint Galgano?
It's near Siena in Italy. Italy is a country north of Sicily.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for that, Charles. Okay.
Couldn't help that one. Low-lying fruit.
Okay. What was the Distraint of Knighthood?
Well, basically, it was like this. In the Middle Ages, you would have certain families whose sons would almost always become knights. As time went on, the making of knights became concentrated. It came out of the hands of other knights and bishops, became concentrated in the hands of the king. This was particularly true in England. So the thing was that if you wanted to be knighted, eventually that meant paying some do-re-mi. So the king, Charles I, found himself in a very bad way when he was forced to dismiss Parliament, and he needed more money. If he called Parliament back, considering how nasty and lousy they had been, he didn't know what would happen. Although, of course, as we found out later, all his fears were justified. So they tried to come up with some, shall we say, original ways of funding governance beyond his own estates, which is primarily where the money for the government came from. And one of them was to find all those who made beyond 40 pounds a year, which is a lot of money in those days, if they did not become knights. So basically, you could become a knight and pay an amount, or refuse and pay more. So that was the Distraint of Knighthood, and it basically was a one-time tax on the wealthiest people in the country. And of course, since a lot of them were part of the Puritan oligarchy, this added to their resentments. You'll find that the wealthy rarely enjoy being taxed further. Mind you, one shouldn't soak the rich, which is why he didn't. But these particular rich needed soaking badly, as they proved later after 1642.
Oh.
Wheezing like a sponge would have been too good for them.
So you're about taxing the 1%, right?
Possibly.
I'm trying. Okay. Um. All
It
right.
depends on the one. It depends on the 1%.
Oh, you believe in selective taxation based on whether you're a nice person or not.
Pretty much, yeah. Bad people should pay lots. Nice people should get free. And then if you were to anticipate your next question, yes, I do decide.
That would be interesting if there was like some test you had to pass, and like if you passed it and you had good answers, then you don't get taxed. But then if you like fail, then it's like, okay, we're gonna quote unquote soak you.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Uh, Big Swimmo says, hit that like button. I don't know how to do that. You do it.
Okay.
And James Delaney says hello. Greetings from Baltimore. James actually descends from a great loyalist hero, Daniel Delaney.
Hmm. You know James personally?
Not, I've never met him, but we've corresponded online, and I know the family.
Oh.
Oh, Biggs. I mean, I don't know his family. I know the, the name. Big Swebel says tax all militant puritanicals. That's exactly what we're saying, Biggs.
Hmm. All right. Um. That's interesting though, because wouldn't most of, I guess perhaps the irreligious part of society in America perceive us as puritanicals? Isn't that
Yep.
part of your book, Puritan's Empire? I feel like where it's sort of in America's DNA that we are going to perceive relig- religious people and religion in a as Puritans, basically.
Yeah, it's all Puritanism.
Yeah.
The oh now see, look here. The Global List Chronicle says your score is not nice. Imagine that. And then Hawthorne says that's a brilliant tax idea, Vinny.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
you got admirers out there. I don't think you don't. Leo Dan says hello, everybody. Uh, James Delaney is surprised I remember him so clearly. Well, it's the family name. I cannot forget Daniel Delaney. I mean, James, have you been named Bobby Delaney or Mark Delaney or even Vincent Delaney? Although Vincent, for some, might be kind of a forgettable name. But uh, even so, I can't forget a Delaney. You're the only other one than your ancestor Daniel I've ever encountered. So there you go. What's the next question? We'll get lost in trivia.
All right. Dear Charles, pray tell us about Philippe de Mezieres and his attempt to revive the crusading spirit amidst its general waning. Ooh.
Well, that's a good question. De Maizière lived in the 1300s. He was born, I think, around 1327, died 1405. The first part of his life was spent as a soldier, and he took part in the siege of Smyrna when they were fighting the Turks. Remember, this is about 100 years, a little more, before they took Constantinople. And there were all sorts of how does one put it, attempts to keep the Turks from getting into Europe because they hadn't quite done that yet. They would, I think, in 1357 they got Gallipoli, and then from there they began to spread. But there was the attempt to keep them in Asia Minor. It failed, obviously, but de Maizière, beginning with his active fighting, then when he went to be a counselor of the King of Cyprus, he tried to revive the whole crusade thing. He failed. He ended up going to France and spending his time writing devotional material. He gave up trying to win the crusade in this life and focused on trying to win it the next.
Hmm. Interesting. All All right. Ryan says, how do you two gentlemen suggest that Roman Catholics ought to connect with and preserve our Roman identity in our modern world? What are the main characteristics of this Roman identity?
Well, the most obvious, of course, is the maintenance of Latin in the Roman Rite and the Western rites in general, and of Koine Greek in the Byzantine. That's the Byzantines, call themselves Romanoi, not Hellenicos. So that's the most obvious. Also, centering in Rome, looking at Rome as our capital, as our spiritual homeland, but also revisiting, I think, the idea of the Holy Empire, the Reichsidee, the idea of some sort of political union of Catholic/Christian states. Now, of course, today there aren't any Catholic states. And that includes ones the majority of whose population, I mean, there are a few exceptions, Liechtenstein comes to mind, but Monaco, but by and large, the vast majority of states with Catholic majorities are not Catholic in terms of their governance. And their Catholics are too supine to do anything about it or to care. But part of our Roman heritage is reclaiming governance, especially in places with Catholic majorities. And of course, evangelizing where there are not Catholic majorities. Now, interestingly enough, the King of England, the King of Great Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, has oddly, this past week, he's about to assert a little bit of Romanitas. What do I mean by that? Well, the major sovereigns of Europe in the Middle Ages had particular roles in Rome. The Holy Roman Emperor was technically the sovereign of Rome. When he came to Rome, he would serve as deacon at the papal mass. And he had particular liturgical roles to play at Christmas and so forth, apart from being prayed for throughout Christendom on Good Friday and Holy Saturday. Beyond that, he was made a canon of St. Peter's when he was crowned at that church. Well, what do you know? The King of France, the second highest ranking Catholic ruler, was made a canon of St. John Lateran and served as subdeacon at the papal mass. The King of Spain, arguably number 4, was made a canon of St. Mary Major. The King of England was made a brother of St. Paul's outside the walls, which is and was a Benedictine monastery. And the abbot of St. Paul's was made the prelate of the Order of the Garter, which is the highest ranking order of chivalry in the English system. Now, if you go to the cloister of St. Paul's today, you'll see the crest of the Order of the Garter to commemorate this. Well, King Charles is going to Rome this week. He's going to pray with Pope Leo in some sort of ecumenical service, and they're going to make him a royal confrater of St. Paul's, just as today the President of France is a canon of St. John Lateran, and the King of Spain is a canon of St. Mary Major. A lot of people have been upset by this. They say, well, it's ecumenism. You're going to be praying with the head of a church whose leading prelatess has just been created. And remember, we said we were the first ones, I think, here to say the next Archbishop of Canterbury would be a woman.
I remember
we said
that.
This.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, I knew what I was talking about. And it's not because I am a fortune teller, contrary to popular belief in some quarters. Had nothing to do with tarot cards or crystal balls, and everything to do with knowing how people are and how particular people are. And I knew Sir Keir Starmer and his gang would have to do that. I also knew that King Charles does not appoint the Archbishop of Canterbury any more than he appoints the Prime Minister, even though he goes to the forum. So, is this a horrible, terrible thing? Maybe yes, maybe no. Depends on the results, ultimately. If it brings the king closer to Catholicism, if it acknowledges the fact that Catholics, practicing Catholics, are now the largest single group of practicing Christians in Great Britain, which is something I'm sure the king is aware of, well, then good. And it's a reassertion of Romanitas, at least as far as England goes. The reason why St. Paul's in Rome has a particular connection to England, and why the cathedral in London is named after St. Paul, is because of the story that St. Paul went to England after he went to Spain. And that story, which is certainly not in Scripture, was sufficiently accepted to give the English bishops pride of place at the Council of Constance. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Now, what would really please me, I'm sure it's a bridge too far. What would really please me is if, while he was at the Vatican, the king went to pray at the tomb of his three real predecessors, James III, Charles III, the real Charles III, and Henry IX. But that would probably be a bridge too far. Although he wasn't supposed to take the name Charles. Everyone said before he became king that he was going to be George VII, because Charles was too Catholic, too Stuart, too everything, too anti-democratic. So it was said he wouldn't take, there was no way he would take the name Charles III, and yet he did. And of course, he was the first king since James II to have chrism validly consecrated, used as coronation. By our standards, I mean. Anglican standards are somewhat different, of course.
Can we, so to go back to the question in terms of how we ought to connect with and preserve our Roman identity in the modern world, can you talk about, I guess, where we were left off in terms of the Roman Empire and sort of the opportunity there? In terms of citizenship of the empire.
Well, just that we should remember that by virtue of our baptism, thanks to the Edict of Thessalonica in 380, we are all not only members of the Holy Roman Church, but citizens of the Roman Empire.
Because that was the main requirement.
Yeah, after Theodosius the Great. Yeah, after Thessalonica.
And he, what's the word? He's abdicated, and so he didn't abolish the empire, and so it's sort of hanging around in some ethereal state.
Ah, yes, you mean Franz II of the Empire, the first of Austria.
That's right.
Yeah, that is the. In fact, I'll get you the two quotes from two of my favorite writers on this very issue. Let's see. Now, I don't know if you know Tumblr House.
It's a very reputable company, a publisher.
Publisher, charity,
incredibly generous,
soup kitchen,
unbelievable collection at tumblrhouse.com. I was just on that website and I was browsing out, and I said to myself, I can't believe how many good books they are over here, and it's so affordable too. Tumblrhouse.com, you're going to want to check that out.
Well, if you go to their blog, you'll find one of my articles called Europe and the Empire, where I talk about this stuff in great detail. But
yeah,
there are two quotes that I will use in terms of the end. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. Viscount Bryce, the great historian of the Roman Empire, of the Holy Roman Empire, points out Great Britain had refused in 1806 to recognize the dissolution of the empire, and it may indeed be maintained that in point of law, the empire was never extinguished at all, but lived on as a sort of disembodied spirit. For it is clear that, technically speaking, the abdication of a sovereign destroys only his own rights and does not dissolve the state over which he presides. Perhaps the Elector of Saxony might, legally, as imperial vicar during an interregnum, have summoned the Electoral College to meet and choose a new emperor. And then Klaus Epstein, in his Genesis of German Conservatism, says, while there is no question that Francis was personally entitled to abdicate a crown he was no longer willing to wear, he certainly had no constitutional power to dissolve the fabric of imperial obligation per se. The empire, like all sovereign states, was intended to be perpetual, and the emperor swore to maintain it to the best of his ability. He broke his coronation oath when he declared it dissolved, and he failed to consult the Stände assembled at Regensburg about his highly irregular procedure. One can argue, therefore, that the imperial death warrant was technically ultra vires, two of my favorite words, as you know, and therefore null and void, and that the empire, quote unquote, legally continued to exist after 1806. Now, with all of this, there's a question of any relevance to the present day. I think of my favorite theologian, Father Aidan Nichols, OP, who declares in Christendom Awake, quote, Catholicism as orthodoxy has historically regarded the monarchical institution in this light. Raised up by Providence to safeguard the natural law and its transmission through history as that norm for human coexistence, which, founded as it is on the Creator and renewed by him as the Redeemer, cannot be made subject to the positive law or administrative fiat or the dictates of cultural fashion. Let us dare to exercise a Christian political imagination on an as yet unspecifiable future. The articulation of the foundational, natural, and Judeo-Christian norms of a really united Europe, for instance, would most appropriately be made by such a crown, whose legal and customary relations with the national peoples would be modeled on the best aspects of historic practice in the Western Holy Roman Empire and the Byzantine quote-unquote Commonwealth, to use the term popularized by Professor Dmitry Obolensky. Such a crown, as the integrating factor of an international European Christendom, and that was as international could apply to Europe beyond the seas, would leave intact the functioning of parliamentary government in the republican or monarchical polities of its constituent nations and analogues in city and village in other representative and participatory forms. As the Spanish political theorist Alvaro Dors defines the concepts, power, that is, government as raised up by the people, can and should be distinguished from authority. Power, in this sense, puts questions to those in authority as to what ought to be done. It asks whether technically possible acts of government for coordinating the goals of individuals and groups in society chime or do not chime with the foundational norms of society, deemed as these are to rest on the will of God as the ultimate power of the human goal, of the shared human goal. Authority itself, bereft of such power, answers out of a wisdom which society can recognize. So, who knows? Who knows?
All right. Final listed question on this episode is from Vonday, who says, Dear Charles, please can you discuss how you believe the lay spirituality of chivalry might be practiced today?
Well, I think for starters, of course, it has to be learned, so I would certainly recommend it as a very basic beginning. Léon Gautier's book, Chivalry, which is available. I think Temple House actually has an edition for sale, and I know that it's available online. So it's around. There's a much longer book as a 4-volume set, 5-volume set called The Broad Stone of Honor, which was written in the 1820s originally and later expanded by its author. You can find a link to that actually on my article, The Way of the Bachelor, which is at 1 Peter 5. So you've got to learn what chivalry is, of course. Beyond that, I do believe, and have believed for a long time, that the rights of chivalry, as shown in the old Pontificale, should be revived. Now, mind you, I'm not the first one to think this way. And I think not the Militia of the Immaculate, which is St. Maximilian Kolbe's group, but the Vendée Radio belongs to the group I'm trying to think of. The Militia Mavier or something, I forget. There's a Templar revival, there's a church order near Siena, oddly enough, St. Galgano's country. There's the Order of Malta, there's the Teutonic Order in Vienna, the Order of the Holy Sepulchre. But I've thought that the actual outside an order use of knighting, of bringing down the graces from heaven that the ritual of knighthood calls for, the Pontificale, could be used from anything from army officers to shall we say, senior lay missionaries. If you've got a bishop willing to do it, you've got a program of sending out catechists or evangelists into areas. I could well see using the making them knights, basically, for the purpose of spreading the faith. And I mean, obviously, after a period of training and all that. But in terms of regular plain chivalry, learn what it was, and venerate the saints of chivalry, from Blessed Karl all the way back to St. George.
Yeah, so a couple things for me on this one. So if we're talking about chivalry and we're talking about spirituality, I think we have to talk about the Ignatian method of spirituality, the Ignatian approach. Like, there are different spiritualities, right? Franciscan, Carmelite, Ignatian, Dominican, with very distinct things that they emphasize. There's also the concept of masculine spirituality versus feminine spirituality, which are very different things.
They are indeed.
For example, an example of feminine spirituality might be the Magnificat. My soul is magnified in the Lord. And so an example of feminine spirituality is where you take an object and you bring it into yourself, right? That's a very feminine thing to do. And it's good. It's good. Now, an example of perhaps masculine spirituality is like the Our Father. It's like, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Like, this is this, that is that. But why I'm talking about this, is that Ignatian spirituality is distinctly masculine. Distinctly. Do you notice how Franciscan orders, they have orders of nuns, and they have priests as well, and they have monks. A lot of the other orders. The Jesuits don't do that.
No.
They only have men. And there's a reason for that. It's because it's masculine spirituality. To dive into that, I highly recommend the Spiritual Exercises of Saint Ignatius. That will really.
Of course, he was a soldier. I mean,
That
that's
too.
certainly,
Yeah, so that's where he came from.
uh, yeah.
Yeah, he the story of him is he was a soldier, and I believe he got hurt. His biography is available too, which is very inspiring too. But yeah, he was a soldier. He got hurt. He rested up, and he really got became on fire for the faith, reading saints' books. And he said, "Why can't I do this?" He felt so inspired, um, and so then he started to change the world with his order.
There's an interesting comment online from ADV. Quote, I think feminine spirituality is best summed up as, be it done to me according to thy will. And masculine spirituality is best summed up as, let not my will, but thine be done.
That's really good. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree.
Yeah. Mm. Uh,
So yeah, so there we is, and East Kid is.
one additional supplement. Since we're talking about chivalry, we're talking about how to live. Is a mention of the Ten Commandments of chivalry, the chivalric code. I'm just going to go down the list. Number one, thou
Yeah,
shalt believe all the church teaches and shall
yep.
observe all its directions. Number two, thou shalt defend the church. Number three, thou shalt respect all weaknesses and shall constitute thyself the defender of them. Number four, thou shalt love the country in which thou wast born. Number five, thou shalt not recoil before thine enemy. Number six, thou shalt make war against the infidel without cessation and without mercy. Number seven, thou shalt perform scrupulously thy feudal duties, if they be not contrary to the laws of God. Uh, Next one, thou shalt never lie and shalt remain faithful to thy pledged word. Number nine, thou shalt be generous and give largesse to everyone. And last one, thou thou shalt be everywhere and always the champion of the right and the good against injustice and evil. Hmm. Yeah.
That's pretty straightforward. And Gautier goes into each of them in great detail. Um, Now there are a couple of questions here. Um, James Delaney asks, is there a connection between blackberries and Michaelmas? Ha! We answered that last time. I ain't saying. Uh, then Wayland Bucephus asks, um, since we're talking chivalry, what are Charles's thoughts on the Knights Templar? Well, I wasn't there. Um, there's a lot of disputation. It's a little bit like Alexander the Sixth. You know, there are two schools of historians that are completely opposed to one another. What I can tell you is three things about the Templars, or two. One is that the kings of Portugal and Aragon declared that their Knights Templar were completely free from the abuses attributed to the others. And so they formed them into the still extant Orders of Christ in Portugal and Montesa in Aragon, now Spain. The other is that there has been a Templar revival, the Militia Templi. As I say, it is an order of the church. They don't claim to be descendants of the old Templars, although the church could confer that on them if they wanted to. But they do live by the old Templar rule. Um, Al Rosario sends me Cliffy, sends me his best. Aldrin from London sends me his best. Good on you. Big Swebel says, oh no, those all sound like hate crimes, referring to the Ten Commandments of Chivalry. The Globalist Chronicle recommends Vincent Our Nation Spirituality. There's a retreat for one day a month of Jesuit Father Croiset. It's incredible. He made the book about the Sacred Heart, and it was approved by St. Margaret Mary Alacoque. Well, you know what? Our viewers are petering out, and so am I.
Alrighty. All right, everyone. Thank you for being with us here with us today. This was another really fun one. again, thank you, Charles, for doing this. I know it's late night for you, but hopefully we can do this again in another 2 weeks.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. And in the meantime, I have a question for you.
What is it?
Well, what is it if it's off the menu? Ha
Ah. Yeah,
You
go
can
ahead.
do
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
If it's off the menu, it must be.
What is it if it's every other Monday?
Then
You can.
it's off the menu.
There we go. What about the soul you
And
save?
so you save on any Monday or any day of the week might still be your own.
All right. See you next time, everyone. Thank you for watching.
God bless. Take care, all.
And 1 second.